Welcome, everyone, to the Zorich Podcast. I am Chris Zorich, and on today's show, we have a Notre Dame legend, Heisman Trophy winner, NFL and College Football Hall of Famer, the one and only, and selfishly for me, a fellow teammate, the Tim Brown. Tim Brown, yes, sir!
I appreciate it, Chris. Thanks for having me on, brother.
Absolutely. I don't know if you remember way back when, but I was a freshman when you were a senior, and a whole bunch of stuff I want to cover. But the one thing I remember, like it was yesterday, we had just got Loftus, and it was raining, and then you were like, "No, what's up with Loftus?" And my memory, I mean, it was rain. It was terrible weather, shitty weather. I remember him saying, "Son, that's for recruiting purposes only." I don't know if that was true, but that's kind of what I remember. Do you remember that?
Well, I do remember that. We got him to go in later in the year, but early in the season, man, he wasn't having it. He didn't do it because he didn't like the cold weather either. So he didn't do it for the cold and the snow, but hey, a little rain, it was right up his alley, so it was all good.
Oh my gosh! Well, I mean, there's so much I want to unpack. First of all, I do want to thank you for coming on the show. It's exciting when I have a chance to kind of share this platform with folks who I think have kind of led, one who are great leaders, but also have kind of made a difference in the history of Notre Dame. And outside of being the last Heisman Trophy winner, what you established there, we were able to kind of carry on and have some success, after you left. So, but before I get into all that, I kind of want to know, like, how you got involved in football, because, I mean, you've had this illustrious NFL career, you're Pro Football Hall of Fame, College Football Hall of Fame, Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, where did Tim Brown get those moves? Where did Tim Brown start playing football?
Man, we used to play when I was 8, 9, 10 years old. We played what we call throw-up football. Right?
Okay.
Basically, you had a ball and you throw it up, and whoever got it ran with the ball. Now, we played this game in the streets, right? It was no grass involved, but there was like a little 3-foot patch of grass on the side. So if you got on the sideline, then you could get tackled. And I really believe, Chris, that's where I learned how to make people miss, because, my whole deal was, if I got a ball, usually what I would do, if the ball hit the ground, I would try to kick it away from people. And then that way I could pick it up and have room to move. And because it was two below, all they have to do was touch you on the butt, in the street. But if you get on the sideline, so you never get on the sideline.
Right.
But really, that's where my love for football. My father was a big Cowboy fan here.
Okay.
So we watched every game together that we could possibly watch. I never would forget the Monday Night Football games and him popping, popcorn on the stove, in a pan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever, So just the smell, man, and I'm a huge popcorn fan today because of him. But, I got to the 7th grade, Chris, and I was playing receiver, and I caught a slant route, and I had a guy chasing me and a guy coming, and I made a move, and they ran into each other, and I went and scored a touchdown. And, in my head, it clicked that, wow, I can make people miss, so I can, avoid the tackle. And, so junior high school was that. Freshman year in high school was very unmemorable. It was nothing to talk about. But everything really started my sophomore year. My varsity football team, we were 425-1 my 3 years on varsity. So
425 and wow.
425. We won 2 games my sophomore year and 1 game my junior year, and we were 1-8-1 my senior year. And I worked hard for that tie, Chris. I worked hard to get that tie, man. So, but I had, because I was returning punts and kicks, not so much an offense, because our offense was horrible. I mean, I would play quarterback one position, running back the next position, receiver. But I realized that, first of all, that I was faster than most of the people that I was playing against.
Okay.
And if I got in these tight situations, I had the ability to make people miss. So so that's how things went for me, man. And thankfully for me, Notre Dame, my junior year, came to recruit a kid who went on to play for Oklahoma, Dante Jones. He actually played
Oh, yeah,
middle
absolutely.
linebacker for the Bears. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
You guys went to the same high school?
No. He went to the rival high school.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
he went to my rival high school. That's the only school we beat. So here in Dallas, there's a little junior high school called J.L. Long. So
Okay.
everybody goes to J.L. Long, but then J.L. Long splits to Woodrow Wilson and Skyline.
Okay.
So that was the only game I could get my boys up for every year because we were playing against guys that we had been, we grew up with, since we were 9, 8, 6, 7, 8 years old.
Wow.
So that night, Chris, I had a 95-yard kick return, a 80-some yard pump return, a
Wow.
70-some yard catch, and a 60-some yard run from scrimmage. And look, I played 27 years of football from time I was seventh grade to my NFL career. The only time I scored 4 touchdowns was Notre Dame came to recruit somebody else. So
it worked. It
worked. That was our high school was so bad. It wasn't Friday night football. You had to play us on Thursday night because we weren't allowed to play on Friday night football.
Wow. And that's Texas. I can't imagine.
So because it was Thursday night and coach didn't have to be back for the Notre Dame game until Saturday or late Friday night, he stayed over and came to my high school on Friday morning and asked my coach, "Who is this kid? And why is it that nobody's talking about it?" And with that, man, Notre Dame sent me a letter in a couple of weeks. And during that time, whatever Notre Dame did, college football did. So I went from one letter to about 50 letters in about a month's time. So it was pretty interesting.
Wait a minute. So if I'm hearing you correctly, I mean, you were not being recruited.
No.
They were looking at Dante Jones, who was on the opposing team, and you obviously made a mark scoring 4 touchdowns. But so did you remember who was recruiting you? Was George Stewart wasn't on the staff?
No. He didn't get there until Lou came in.
Okay.
The coach's name was Dave Robertson. And so Dave, as soon as they signed me, they fired Dave. So I was like, is that a good sign or not? So he left and went to Navy, and he was there for years at Navy. But yeah, so his name was Dave Robinson. Never forget him. Nicest guy in the world, man. And I mean, he just did a heck of a job. Coach Faust came down to Dallas, obviously, to him and my dad. My dad was about to jump on him because he kept hugging and kissing on my mom. My dad was like, "Dude, keep your hands off my wife." Right?
Now, we do have to let people know, Faust, he is a great guy. That's how he is. Yeah, but I'm sure, walking into somebody's house, people don't know him.
So yeah, pretty.
Okay, so you're looking at, obviously you're looking at Notre Dame. What other schools kind of jumped on the bandwagon after Notre Dame did? Like what were your final 5 schools that you were going to visit?
So SMU at that time, who was the hottest school in college football, really, with Eric Dickerson and Craig James. At that time, it was Oklahoma, Nebraska. I visited Oklahoma, Nebraska, Iowa, who was hot at that time. I mean, they were top 10 team at that time.
Wow.
And I had a buddy who had played against here who had gone up to Iowa. So Robert Smith. And Notre Dame. So those were my 5 teams. So 2 of those visits were unofficial at that time because you can only take 3 official visits. But I think Oklahoma and SMU were my unofficial visits. But my whole thing, man, was I didn't want to go far away. I wanted to stay at home. But when everything started to unwind with SMU, I realized that wasn't going to be an option for me.
Okay.
And so all these other colleges, man, I go there, Chris, man, and it wasn't about the school. It was about the boys, right? And once you get away from the coaches, man, they start to show who they really are. and everybody think I'm square now. Well, imagine me at 17 years old, bro. I'm not square. You know, I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to do it. And
Wow.
and all the stuff that they said was fun, I didn't look at it as being fun. So, and then I went to the University of Notre Dame, man, and Alvin Miller met me at the airport, and he was my host.
Okay.
And after pretty much 10 minutes of being with him, I said to myself, this is a guy who, I can hang around. And then
Wow.
when you met the other guys, man, you have conversations and you hear guys talking about the businesses they want to own, or the companies they want to be involved in, or the nonprofits they want to run, and not talking about what football can do for them, but what this education. I mean, I was done. I was literally done, and just realized at that point there was no other school I could go to. Is
Wow.
really what I thought, and it just, to me, it was a perfect spot for me to be.
So you're there. You have some success, and they make a coaching change.
Mhm.
So I've been through a coaching change on the professional level. What is it like for a 15 or not 15, sorry, a 18, 19-year-old kid when you're going to school because of the coaching staff, great
Mhm.
school, that they make that change, and how was it done? I mean, did they have a team meeting and say, guys, hey, we're going to go a different direction? How did that work?
Yeah, so I think because of the way things were going my sophomore year, we all realized that it was probably going to be the end of Faust's tenure. His contract was up, and if you go into the last game and they ain't offered you a contract, bro, there was no social media back then and all that, but we all knew. We got the message that he probably wouldn't be around. And then we got shellacked by Miami, 50-something to 7 or 50-something to 6 or whatever it was, and it was a very, very embarrassing time for the university. So I actually think he got fired on the way from back from
Wow.
Miami to South Bend, because we
Okay.
never saw him again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. We never. Yeah, I think that was supposed to be a meeting. Remember back in those times we were staying in California, Florida, for so we didn't get back to like Monday morning or whatever it was,
Right. Right.
and so yeah, but yeah, we didn't see him again. So, and then a couple of days later, we got the announcement, maybe not a couple of days, that Coach Holtz was going to be the coach, and that was it, man. So yeah, it was pretty weird, really. After being with Coach Faust for 2 years,
Sure.
and all of a sudden, know he was gone without really being able. But then we didn't know that he was going to be back every weekend. You know what I mean? We didn't
Right.
know that.
So for folks who might not know, like, I mean, Faust became a fixture at the home games. And so you'll see him in the stands hanging out with people. You'll see him talk with coach. I mean, he is a genuinely great guy. I'm not sure who was genius who decided to take a high school football coach and make him the head coach of Notre Dame. I have no idea how that happened. That in itself is insane, but it was in the past. But the idea, and again, not saying that he was a terrible coach, but he just, you can't give him a small, give him like a max, give him like Akron,
Yes,
or give him
yes,
like Texas State or something. Don't give
right.
him the
Notre Dame.
the, the hierarchy. Right, exactly. I mean, don't give him Notre Dame. Come on. And then it was like I heard, because they wound up getting a lot of recruits from high school there. I think he was a coach at Moeller or something like that.
Mola. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it was a hotbed for recruits. It's like, excuse me, there's 49 other states out there. Why
Yes.
are you
Yes.
concentrated on one? But okay, so obviously times have changed, because now when you hear about coaching changes, they have a meeting with the players, they have a meeting with everybody else. I'm
Mhm.
assuming it sounds like they didn't have a meeting with you guys and say, hey, what do you guys think about about who should the new coach should be?
Oh man, no, not at all, bro. I mean, it wasn't even a thought. Matter of fact, when Lou Holtz's name came up, we had no clue who he was. I mean, I didn't
Wow.
know, and I wasn't a huge college football fan. I loved SMU. growing up in Texas, I followed Texas, maybe
Right.
Baylor a little bit, and TCU, but so I wasn't aware that he had been to Arkansas and all these other places. But at this particular time, he was in Minnesota.
Right.
And so, him coming from there, obviously, I would have known anything about Minnesota. It was interesting. I mean, what you heard about him was, he was a vivacious guy. He was one of these guys, man, that was, take no prisoners type guys, and so it was what it was. But I mean, I don't think anybody expected that we would get what we got. That's for sure.
Well, it's funny you say vivacious kind of, kind of this outgoing guy. When you look at him, he's 5'2", soaking wet, and probably like 98 pounds, right? I mean,
Right.
it does not. But so I don't know if this is a legend because I wasn't there at the time, but I was told there was a rumor that the first team meeting, and I know Chuck Lanza, he was actually a senior with you, right, in '87, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so I only know him because he beat the crap out of me in practice every day. So I knew who he was, All-American center, and this guy was a beast. And at the time where our team meetings were, there was a short distance between the actual stage and the first row seats, and it was like seniors, juniors, sophomores, freshmen. So I was told, or I heard that the first team meeting that Holtz had with you guys, Chuck Lanza has like his feet propped up on the stage, and we're waiting for Holtz to come in. So he comes in, and this little itty bitty man that we just talked about kicks Chuck Lanza's feet off the stage. Was that true?
Look, I was sitting right next to Chuck. It is absolutely true, and the whole room went woo. Chuck was the biggest, baddest thing in the locker room.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And I mean, he wasn't the biggest, but he was the baddest without a doubt. So, and Chuck sort of record like, then and because he didn't know what to do.
Right.
It sort of felt like he was going to respond back. It wasn't a push. It was literally he kicked his feet off and don't you have your feet on my stage when I come in the room?
Wow.
And I tell you what, it never happened again. It's like that.
And it's amazing because when you think of his stature, you think of how he is. I mean, it would take a lot to get that type of respect over time, right? Mm-hmm. And so literally, all of a sudden, he walks in, literally kicks the feet of basically the toughest guy in the room, and all of a sudden everybody sits up. I mean, that's an amazing introduction your first time.
Yeah, it really was, man. And hey, for the rest of my time there, that's how everybody was. Like, you were at attention, man, when he walked in the room because you just didn't know what would happen, So, which was a beautiful thing because that was one of the things that we lacked, at that particular time.
Sure.
We just didn't have that discipline. We had great players, man. We had the biggest offensive line in football my freshman year when I first got there. But if you're undisciplined, it doesn't matter how good you are, how big you are. You can always get put in the wrong place and do the wrong thing, and it's going to cause problems.
Wow. So, I mean, obviously you spent 2 years with Coach Holtz, and during that time, you went from how much time did you get like your sophomore year?
Man, I would play a couple plays a drive, but I was not a starter, so I may have started a couple games or whatever, but I was just a guy, bro. I mean, I was literally just a guy. I mean,
wow.
I think I returned one punt, one kickoff for a touchdown. I think I may have done that my sophomore year.
Okay.
But I was literally just a guy. I was, there was never a play call for me, and we played LSU in South Bend, and we had a 3rd and 15 or something like that, and I had a chance to make a big play over the middle. The ball was catchable, but it wasn't easy. I had to jump up for it, and I was able to get my hands on it. And, man, after that, bro, I barely got playing time, So to me, a coaching change was good, but
Sure.
I mean, I wasn't looking for anything special. I just figured, hey, maybe we'll win more football games. Hey, John, hey, Chris, for me, I hadn't had a winning football season since I had played football.
Oh my God!
This is going back. I think my seventh grade year, we went 6-2. My seventh grade year, but my eighth grade year, I
Oh
know
my
we were like
God!
4-4 or something like that.
Oh
Freshman
my
year,
God!
losing records. Sophomore, junior. So I was looking for a winning season, bro.
Just to win.
So so yeah, man. But so it was I mean football for me was what I had to do to get the education I was trying to
Sure.
get.
Sure.
So
Sure.
I never gave football a second thought when it came to doing extra stuff. It was always about do what I have to do over here so I can go back and get these grades right on the other side of the street.
So was it during spring ball that he saw you, or do you know if he watched tape on you? I mean, it sounds like they're
You couldn't have watched
not a bit a lot of tape.
no tape to watch, Chris. No tape to watch. So we had that winter ball workout, right? That
Right, okay,
workout.
right.
So so we did that the second day of spring ball. Second day of spring ball, he pulled me over and asked me. Well, not he pulled me over. He told me to meet him in his office.
Uh-huh.
So he asked me a litany of questions. He was like, "Okay, why didn't they play you more?" I said, "Coach, they just didn't play me." Don't you lie to me, boy. I can't do the Lou Holtz voice.
Right.
Don't you lie to me, Chip. Uh, he was like, was it drugs? Was it grades?
Wow.
Was it women? What was it? Was it discipline reasons? You tell me what the reason. I said, Coach, none of those things. I said, they just didn't play me. There's no coaching staff in America dumb enough not to play you. You tell me what the problem is. And I said, Coach, and that's when he told me, the first time he told me, he said, well, I can tell you this. The only way you won't get the ball is if the defense find a way to intercept the snap for center. He said, if they can intercept the snap for center, I can't get you the ball. But if that ball gets in my quarterback's hands, I guarantee you I'm going to find a way to get you the ball.
Oh, my God.
And that started, man, every day in spring ball that year after practice. And I say every day, it may have missed a day or two, but it felt like every day that he was bringing me in, either talking about something I had done on the field that he didn't ask me to do, or showing me films of what I was doing in practice and how he had never seen an athlete be able to do some of the things that I'm doing on the field.
Wow.
And and that's when he started saying that I think you could be the greatest player. I mean, the best player in college football. And I was like, "Are you talking about the Heisman Trophy?" He was like, "Absolutely. I think you." And I was like, "Coach, come on, man. So now I'm thinking you're blowing smoke, right? Come on, man. I can remember, Chris, going 2 weeks of having those conversations with him and literally looking at him in the meeting like, dude, why are you going through this?
Wow.
And just telling myself, look, bro, look. All right, this is what I need you to do. I just need you to listen to this guy, right? Listen and do. You got to do it anyway. So you might as well do it his way, and let's just see what happens. And from that day on, man, things just went sky high, towards the sky, man. And as far as my football career, it just, man. Look, when I got to the league, I'm not trying to jump ahead, but I'll just say this real quick. When I had problems, I called Lou Holtz.
Wow.
I mean, when me and Al Davis were having problems, I called Lou Holtz. There was not a situation that I got in my life before I was 30 years old that I did not call Coach Holtz. You know what I mean? If I needed some real advice, I mean, that's who I called, man. So, yeah. So, anyway.
And it's so interesting because when people think about football, right? So we have folks who listen to the podcast or watch the podcast who may not have played. And it's not, I mean, you came from a great home, mom and dad, right? Yeah. I mean, family. Yeah. And it's not that Holtz replaced any of them. It was the fact that he saw something in you as a coach and allowed you to excel in that area. And so now when you have a question, why not go to, and I think a lot of times people just assume coaches are just people who tell you what to do. And they don't understand that it goes beyond the practice. It goes beyond the game. And when you have that type of coach who made that difference in your life, then that's a conversation that you want to have with that person when you run into difficulties or when you have questions. And I think that's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And I say this, first of all, when you come to a place like the University of Notre Dame, you didn't come to a place that guys are looking at this as, I'm going to be 3 years and out. I'm going to, get this, I'm just going to do whatever I can do to slide by so I can get on to the NFL and move on. I mean, you're dealing with a whole bunch of guys who are motivated for life.
Right.
They're motivated to go out and do some incredible things. And, from that standpoint, I think it's a lot more difficult for a coach to be able to really motivate guys, because, this is not about football.
Right.
Hey, coach, I hear you, but I got this exam tomorrow
right.
that I got to go study for,
right.
And his ability, man, even in the midst of that, to be able to grab the minds of the guys for the 2, 3, 4 hours that he had us and had us completely focused on football was amazing, because in my previous 2 years, that was not the case for sure. And that was the thing that I thought was amazing. And even taking it a little deeper, I mean, when a guy doesn't have a father, it's very easy for a coach. I won't say easy, but I will use easy. It's easier for a coach to be able to go and replace that father, because but when a guy, and not everybody at Notre Dame, and I mean, your situation is up front here. Not everybody had a father, but you got a lot of guys who did. Right. So now you're not replacing, you're not being daddy, you're not being uncle. You know what I mean? So again, for him to be able to get into the minds of all those guys with the education on their mind, who got a daddy that they can talk to every day, it was not an easy thing. But for him, he was a magician, man. He was magnificent at it. Now I can tell you, there were about 8 or 9 guys who never played once Coach Holtz got there. Okay, because they could not deal with, because he plays some mind games.
Oh, yes, he does. Yes, he does.
But, if you love the game, it was not, but if you had a little thing in your heart about, you weren't completely dedicated to the game, he would expose you in a minute. You know what I mean? So, and, I think those are the amazing qualities that he has, man, that I know I'm forever indebted, for the time that I had with him.
Sure. Okay. So now it's your senior year, and we've got through the practice where we actually finally got into Loftus, right? Which was hilarious, because when people think of Notre Dame, they may think, great facilities, everything else. I mean, Tim, so I was actually working in the athletic department. I left in 2010. They hadn't had a training table yet. Now, when Coach Kelly came, they got a training table. I mean, the training table for us when we were there was Coach Kelly made a call over to the dining hall and said, "Hey, keep them over for another 2 hours, right?"
Yeah.
And we got the exact same food, and it may even have been older because the people cooked it earlier, right? than the regular students. So there wasn't anything special. So the fact that we got this indoor facility was amazing, and the fact that we didn't use it as much as we should was even more funny. So anyway, so you're senior year now. So at what point are you even thinking, hey, Holtz told me last year I might have a chance at this thing? I mean, people are talking like, are you just out there kind of got blinders on? You're doing what you're supposed to be doing? At what point do you think that you may have a chance of winning the Heisman?
So I got to go back to my last game of junior year. We're playing USC, and we're down in that game 37-22 or whatever it was. and I think there's 10 minutes to go in the game, whatever. I had a couple big plays. I had a long punt return and a long catch, and to set us up to come back and win that game on the last second field goal. And after that game, um, there was a reporter who's since passed, who was great for me when my time with the LA Raiders. His name was Jim Murray,
Okay.
and at that, Jim Murray was the LA Times sports reporter, but he was nationally known. If he said something, people at least looked into it if they didn't just agree with him. And after that game, he came up to me and said that I was going to be his front runner for the Heisman the next year.
Wow.
And so this is the second time, I've heard the Heisman word.
Exactly.
And to be honest with you, I didn't even know what it was until Lou mentioned it to me. So what happens then? My brother, because that's the last game of the year, so my family is out in LA.
Okay.
And my older brother is there, my only brother, and I'm 20, 21, so he's 28, 29, and I say to him, "Hey, man, this reporter just said that I'm going to be his front runner for the Heisman," and we just dismissed that, and I went right to, "Well, do you think even if I don't win the Heisman, somebody may want me to play for them in the NFL?" And we looked at them and we were like, "Nah, that ain't gonna happen."
Wow.
So that quickly changed because during that off season, all the polls for the next year and the players were being rated, and I was top 5 on everybody's list. Definitely top 10 on everybody's list, I should say. So we all of a sudden had to change everything that we had thought, our thought process about, football. And now I have to get a Lloyd's of London,
Insurance policy, right?
and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man. So so my senior year comes, and I think at that particular point, it's me, Don McPherson. Well, Don really wasn't on the scene early on.
Okay.
But Gordy Lockbaum was a two-way player out of Holy
There we go.
Cross, Gaston Green out of UCLA,
Okay.
and Craig Ironhead Haywood was, the second game of the year, I have those 2 punt returns back to back against Michigan State, and at that particular point, I became the front runner for the Heisman. So, but for me, I mean, we were, I think we went 6-5 with Lou his rookie his first year. So I was like,
winning season.
So, but man, we were off to a really, really good start, and so everybody was so focused on, winning the national championship or having the opportunity to play for a national championship. And we went into the Penn State game that year, and if we win that game, we go down to Miami the next week. If we beat Miami, we play for the national championship.
Okay.
So going into that Penn State game, we were all locked in, man, and your boy T. Rice tried to hog the ball. We went for 2. I mean, it was 20-21 or whatever it was. If we kicked the extra point, it's a tie. There was no overtime back then. So we had to go for 2. And Lou called a perfect play. And your boy in the snow and ice tried to turn it up. If you pitch it to me, I can probably outrun somebody to the. So you let him know that. Let him know that.
I will.
We jacked up our national championship team. So,
wow.
So we lose that game, and so now going into Miami, the talk on the offense side was, let's win the Heisman for Timmy. Let's make Timmy win let's make sure. And obviously, I didn't have my best game down there. So, but yeah, so I think after that Michigan State game, I knew there was, I don't want to say pressure, but I knew people were looking at me differently because supposedly I was a front runner for the Heisman at that point.
Now, we've all seen, I mean, the folks who are watching, who enjoy football. I mean, we see this. It's a phenomenal event. I mean, when you're sitting there, and I'm assuming the people you mentioned were the four that were in New York.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're sitting there, and I mean, I've never had this. Obviously, I've never won a Heisman before. But I mean, when you hear your name, what's going through your head?
I was shocked, brother. I was literally shocked. Now you remember Brandy? You know Brandy Wells?
Oh, absolutely. He used to cut my hair. I don't know if you remember that, but he used to cut my hair.
Yeah. So B-Dub, man, probably did the best explanation of why I was going to win it. Before I left to go, he said, "Look, man, you're going to win the Heisman." He said, "You're going to win it because if Don McPherson wins the East, you're going to get second place. If Ironhead Haywood wins the Midwest, you're going to get second place, but you know you're going to win the Midwest. If Gaston Green wins the West, you're going to get second place. Where all these other guys, they're going to be third and fourth and second or whatever. But the worst you're going to do is second in all of these regions." And man, that made too much sense to me. You know what I mean?
How about Brandy breaking it down for you? You know?
I mean, and I was literally blown away by that. But then it gets to the point, it's like, oh, wait a minute, I can't, I got to go into this thing with a free mind.
Sure.
But I remember getting there, man, and Jim Nance came up to me. James Brown first came up to me and said, "You really deserve to be here." And I'm thinking, yes, because James Brown, I must have won it. And then Jim Nance came up to me and said, "Hey, well, no matter what happens, you had a great year." I'm like, oh, man. So you're literally living and dying with everybody who comes up to you. And the great thing about it at that time, it was not a long production. Okay. So literally after 8 or 9 minutes, they made the announcement.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was only a 30-minute production back then.
Okay.
So they made the announcement, 10, 12 minutes into the deal. It was like, and the 53rd winner is. Everybody's like, oh, it's like, are we doing a heads up or something? And that, bro, I remember homeboy Rudy Riska saying the 53rd winner is Tim Brown from the University of Notre Dame. Wow. And from that time on, I'm like blank. I mean, I go up there and I mumble some words out, and I just need to get back to my seat, man, to just be able to take this in, because I mean, to go from where I went from high school football, playing on a team that was 425-1, to my first 2 years at Notre Dame, to 2 years later be sitting in that seat that I'm now the supposed best player in the country, the most outstanding is what the trophy says. It was a little hard to comprehend. I have to be honest with you.
Wow, that is a great. And I'm assuming your family, everybody was down there.
Mom and dad was there.
Okay.
Brother was there. I think that was it. And my girlfriend, who literally dumped me that night in the hotel room. So that's
my God.
That's a story for another day, I guess. But I think that was it. And then I got a chance to come. I stayed there for a couple of days for the. I did stay for a couple of days. Came back to South Bend, and this is a funny story. And this is a Notre Dame story I like to tell.
Please.
So when I got back to South Bend, I had missed like 3 or 4 days of classes or whatever.
Oh my God.
And I missed a Spanish exam, right? And so I go to the prof and say, "Hey, just got back in town. I need to set up something with you to."
I got this thing. See this big old thing that I had.
I need to set up something where I can, take this. And he looked at me and said, "No, you failed." I was like, "I failed the test." He said, "No, you failed the class." And I was like, "Hold up, I was like, "Because I missed the exam?" And he was like, "Yes." I said, "Well, I was just a little busy. Maybe if you read a newspaper,
maybe you watch
look at the TV." So, bro, I had to go get a letter from the president of the university to take the final exam.
Oh my!
To take the final exam. And,
see, that is only a Notre Dame story. That happens nowhere else.
Can you imagine any other Heisman Trophy would have happened that time? So, but Yeah, man. So I came back to the campus for a couple of days, then went back for the big ceremony, which they did like a week later at that time,
Okay.
and yeah, so I brought the trophy back, had the trophy in the room with me the whole time, and
In your dorm, in your itty bitty dorm room.
in my Kavanaugh Hall, which is now a girls' dorm. So I would set up times with through the Observer. I would set up times with
No way.
with the people with the students that wanted to take pictures with the Heisman and all that kind of stuff. So I had a select time from 1 to 4. I'll be here. From
Oh my
6 to 8. I'll be here.
See,
And then I
now
made
you
the biggest.
something like John Heisler would kind of set that up for you, right? You'd think that they would do that, but you had to do it.
No. I was doing everything through the Observer. So,
Oh my gosh.
I
The
had
Observer
put,
is a school newspaper.
right. So I had put in there, if anybody needs me to sign anything, just drop it off at the football office, right?
Okay.
So Julie called me one day in my room, Tim Brown, get over here, Tim. And I was like, hey, okay, Julie, okay. So I get over there, man. I walk in, and literally, bro, you remember when you walked in, they had the couches or whatever over there,
Right.
in the old, that whole area was filled
No.
with stuff, balls and
Wow.
jerseys, and I sat there, man, for 4 hours.
No
And
way.
she sat there with me, and she was handing me
Oh.
stuff. She was talking about me the whole time. Don't you ever do this again. So what I told people after that, man, which I thought was phenomenal, was really phenomenal, how the student body handled it, was I told everybody, okay, this is what we're going to do. We can't do it at the football office. I want to make sure everybody gets signed what they want to get signed. I said, on the left side of the hall is what needs to be signed. On the right side of the hall is what I have signed.
Oh
So
my
bring
God.
yourself, drop it off, and bro, I had not, which I think is remarkable because there was football, there was jerseys, there was all kinds of stuff. They had remember they had the Heisman hanky and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And I don't remember one person coming to me and say, "Hey, my stuff isn't here. What
Wow.
happened to my ball? What happened to this?"
Wow.
And I think everybody, did an incredible job. But that's what we did, man. We lined stuff up on one side, and I signed it. I'll put it on the other side of the hall, and it was tons and tons of stuff every day, literally every day.
Oh my! Well, and you organize it, which I think is amazing. Before we take a break, I want to ask you one question. Actually, it's non-athletic, so I do want to ask you, and maybe it was the issue with the Spanish professor, but can you share with us a moment at Notre Dame that was memorable for you that had nothing to do with football or athletics?
Man, look, I tell people all the time. So my junior year in Kavanaugh Hall has in the very top, it has 2 rooms that had bathrooms.
Okay.
So if you got one of those, you were like the man, right?
Right.
So it was a lottery that went out, and I was a second pick, right? I got the second pick, so I was gonna get a room with a bathroom in it, right?
Right.
And so I go down, I make the pick, and I mistakenly picked the wrong room.
No.
I picked 403 instead of 408, and so the guy behind me picks the room and comes to me and said, "Tim, what's up, man? I thought you were gonna pick you had the room." I said, "I did." He said, "No." He said, "You picked 403." And he said, "But hey," he said, "I'm good. So let's go tell Father Michelli that
Wow.
that what had happened." So we walked in the room hugging, man. Father, strange thing happened. Really strange things happened. I meant to pick 4-8. I picked 4-3. Jimmy here said it was cool. So we're just going to switch rooms. Just want you to know. And man, homeboy looked at me and said, no.
What?
He said, no. He said, "You made the mistake. Now you have to live with it." I
Whoa.
was like, Father, hold up, bro, hold up. I mean, I ain't trying to say I'm a man, but if
Right.
there's a man on campus right
Right.
now, it's probably me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm
Oh,
about to be a senior, all this stuff. And he said, if you change rooms, I will report you to some whatever. And but Chris, you know what, man? You know what that taught me? That when things happen in your life, always look from inside out, bro. And
sure.
that is a story that has resonated with me almost on a weekly basis. You know what I mean? That when things go bad, don't point your fingers at other people.
Right.
You know, I
Right.
mean, look at what you did wrong, or what can you do better. And so, I mean, it was a horrific moment, and even worse for Jimmy, who
Right.
was literally right across the hall from me,
Every
and
day.
he had to step over stuff every day. You know what I mean? And but yeah, it was a remarkable story, man, um, and I really still can't believe they didn't let me change the room.
Wow.
Being that the guy behind me was like, "Hey, Father, I'm good
Right.
with this.
Right.
It's
Right.
good." But at the same time, brother, I think it taught me a lesson that still resonates with me today.
See, that is amazing, right? So you think about kind of in that moment what's going on. Like, wait a minute, what? Hey, there was nothing nefarious here. I mean, I didn't intimidate the guy. I mean, no, this is nothing had to do with that. And you sit there and question, why did he do that? And now 30 years, 33 years later, whatever it is, you can still remember the guy's name. I don't remember who my rector was, but because of that story,
Yeah, yeah,
this person, and Lord knows where that guy is.
yeah,
And
yeah.
at that moment, I'm sure he wasn't thinking, hey, this is a lesson to learn in life, but
Right, 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 right.
was, hey, these are the rules. And if
Yeah,
you change it, then I'm going to go report you. So that's
yeah. I don't even know, Chris, if it was meant for evil. You know what I mean?
right.
But if it was, God turned it into something great, great. And that is the thing that I'm comforted with. That you know that situation, I learned from it, and so when things go bad now, I always look here first, and then if I can clear myself, then we'll go and start trying to figure out the outside issue. But so for me, man, it was one of the best things that happened to me while I was at the university.
That is amazing. That's amazing. Okay, so now, Tim, so you've won the Heisman. You live in Kavanaugh. And to let people know, the Heisman is a really, really big statue. And I'm assuming, did you have a double or a single in Kavanaugh?
Oh, I had a single.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so now it was even small. Okay, so maybe the
Yes,
size of his desk, I'm not sure.
yes.
But, I mean, you have people come by your room to kind of check it out and look at it, take a picture with it?
Yeah, so what we did is, I don't know if Julie, but somebody got me like a stance,
Okay.
right? So literally what I would do is bring the stance out in the hallway, set the trophy
Okay.
there, and
Okay.
then we would take pictures. Yeah.
That's hilarious, man. Wow. Wow. Okay, so you go from itty bitty room. So now, what was draft day like for you? I mean, did you go with your family? I mean, how were you on campus? How was it?
Yeah, so at that time they weren't doing anything, bringing people to New York. They only brought Andre Bruce because Atlanta had said that they were going to take him
Okay.
as a first pick, so he was the only one in New York. And so I was in my. Now I had, after my eligibility was up, I moved off campus. I
Okay.
kept the dorm room, but I moved off campus, so I was in my apartment. Brandy was there, Alvin was there.
No way.
Um, Tonia, my son's mother, was there, I believe, and maybe a couple other her friends. But it was only 6, 7, 8 people there,
Wow.
and so I didn't know. Um, to be honest with you, I didn't know the Raiders were even on the radar, because my agent was saying that, look. So after Atlanta said that they were going to take Andre Bruce, it was Detroit, Kansas City, Cincinnati and Tampa,
Okay.
in between uh, Atlanta and the Raiders, who had the sixth pick.
Wow.
So his whole deal was, I don't want you to go to any one of those teams because they all needed a safety. And
Oh,
what we had discussed, because our last year we were the wishbone offense, right? So I would literally have to go and learn how to play the receiver position again. Now I can return punts and kicks, yes, but Kansas City, Detroit, Cincinnati, Tampa, they all needed, So he was like, I'm going to work something out. So I think he told all these teams, man, that I had an uncle to die in the city,
wow.
and it would be very, emotional on me. So I don't know what he did or how he did it, but some kind of way he said there's no way Al Davis can pass on you if you get to the sixth pick. And I was literally trying to get to the ninth pick because the Cowboys had the ninth pick,
There you
and I
go.
wanted to,
Hometown team,
so
Dad bounced.
I remember talking to Gil Brandt, and Gil said to him, there's so many receivers in this draft. We can't get up to get you. We would love to have you, but we can't make a move to get a receiver when there's going to be so many receivers. Of course, they ended up taking Irvin. Sterling Sharp was in that draft also.
Wow.
We had I think we had five wide receivers to go in that draft, and a couple guys to go early in the second round. So yeah, man, that was it, man. And some kind of way I got to the Raiders. They called and said, "Do you want to be a Raider?" And I was like, "Absolutely,
Right. Exactly.
absolutely." So, but so I that was Friday, Thursday, Friday. I think Saturday night, Sunday, I flew to L.A. and was in a little mini camp practice on Monday morning. And I never forget that Ron Wolf, who I ended up going into the Hall of Fame with,
Okay.
pulled me out of practice and said to me, "Hey man, look, the old man didn't want you. He wanted Ricky Dixon, who went Cincinnati to pick before me,
Before you.
and he wanted defense, and he's a little upset." And he says, and on top of that, he's not good on players from Notre Dame, especially African American players, because at that time we had a couple guys in the late '70s and early '80s to come into the league and say, I'll go through training camp and get my signing bonus, but I probably can make more money on Wall Street. And they took their talents on Wall Street or whatever. So he always thought Notre Dame players were too smart. And
Oh,
so I was, people were like, well, you ought to be offended that he, was saying that he didn't like African American players from Notre Dame. I said, well, that's really something that as a Notre Dame guy, you understood, because you were looked at as being different. You looked at as being a guy who wanted
right.
an education and da da. So I wasn't shocked by that. What I was shocked by was I hadn't even got through one practice. Can I get through one practice? Can I drop a ball first before you say,
Right. Right.
I'm here for the money?
Oh,
So that really started a pretty unusual relationship between me and Al Davis,
oh my
and
God.
so I think he may have said one thing to me that my rookie year.
You're kidding me.
No, I mean, and it was, I can't even remember when it was. Well, I do remember. So my rookie year, very first time I touched the ball, I returned a kick 97 yards for a touchdown. So I had a pretty good game. First 4 games, returning kicks. I ended up leading the league, breaking Gail Sayers records or whatever.
Wow.
But I think the 5th game, I hurt my knee in the Kansas City game,
Okay.
and I ended up turning a cartilage in my right knee. And so the next week, I barely practiced. I played in the game the next week versus New Orleans and played okay. And after that, I just told the trainers, look, man, I don't want to get surgery right now, so I'm just going to play through it, right? So every once in a while, I had what they call a bucket handle tear, and the thing flopped back and forth, and it would get caught, and so my knee would just get stuck. But it never
Oh,
happened while I was running. It would only happen while I was walking, or most of the time when I'm sitting down because the flexion in your knee.
right.
And so I played a couple games like that, and I guess the trainers may have told him that it was pretty unusual what I was doing. And he came, and Al, the only thing he said to me my rookie year after game 7 and 8 was, "You're a real tough guy, huh? You're a real tough guy." And I didn't know what he meant, So I didn't. I just sort of laughed it off because I had no idea what had happened. And I
right.
found out later that uh, H. Rod Martin, who ended up being one of my best friends in the organization, the head trainer, told him that what I was doing playing through that injury was for a receiver was pretty remarkable. But yeah, and then my second year, the opening game, my second year, I tear my knee up returning the kickoff.
Ah,
So I'm out 15 games. Um, I remember when I came back. Only thing he said to me that year was, "Timmo, can you still make those moves like you used to? Can you still do it, Timmo? Can you still do it? Tell me."
wow.
And
That's all.
that was in training camp.
Ah,
And then he told me that midway through the season, when it looked like my knee was going to hold up, that I was going to be the best punt returner because they weren't going to let me return kicks anymore. I was going to be the best punt returner, third down receiver to ever play the game. That I would never play on first and second down anymore. I was only going to play on third downs and return punts.
this is the second year of your career.
Basically, yeah. So it's year 3 because I
I'm
missed
sorry,
year
you're
2.
three.
So brother, in 90, 91, and halfway through 92, I never played first and second down. I only played third down and return punts and kicks. And the guys I was playing with, I loved them, and I was having a great time. So Murray Fernandez, I played behind him, and Willie Galt was the X receiver, and Mervin got hurt going into the Cincinnati game that year, and I started, had an incredible game. I returned a punt for a touchdown that game, and I had at least one touchdown. And I know I had a big catch at the end of the game to solidify the game. And after that, I started from 92 till I left there in 04. But but during that time, man, what was really weird was the better I played, the more it seemed like I didn't have a relationship with Al, and it got really frustrating because I couldn't figure out why. I couldn't figure out why this guy never patted me on the back or never,
Mm.
hey, said, "Great game." Um, the only thing that he would do to me, towards me, I should say, after a game, he would look at me and go, that was
That's
his
all.
that was his thing, sucking his teeth, and and
Jeez.
and so it got frustrating, man. And literally, I tell people now, especially when we played at home, and anytime I scored a touchdown in the end zone, and I saw any Al Davis sign, I would throw the ball at that sign.
Oh my God, that's
And
hilarious.
people over the years were like, "Tim, this is like the 8th time this year that you have thrown the ball at the Al Davis sign." And I was always able to play it off, man. Like, man, look, I'm just so emotional, whatever. It just,
Wow.
um, but it literally took me, and I'm gonna jump up a few years, and that happened my whole career.
The
My whole
whole.
career.
I mean, well, what about like during the renegotiation for your contract and stuff like that? I mean, did he just
I
kind of
never
look at
talked to him.
you?
Never
Really?
talked to him. He always talked to my agent, and we did them a big solid where my contract was always available to be renegotiated so they can
Okay.
make money, make room to
Okay.
bring in other players. So
Sure.
so we did that with them for maybe from 97, 98 until I left. Every year they would renegotiate my contract and
Okay.
give me a little money here, so that, so we were always, kind to the organization when it came to that kind of stuff. I told my agent, day one that I never wanted to hold out, you know, and after my first 4-year contract, they wouldn't let me come to training camp. They held me out. Supposedly they were trying to find my replacement, and I guess they couldn't do it in 2 weeks of training camp, so they finally brought me back.
Oh my
And
God.
so, in 93, they had me get on the trading block. I actually signed a contract with the Denver Broncos. After the 93 season, I signed a contract with the Broncos
I
because I
didn't
wanted
know
out.
that.
I wanted away so bad, man,
Wow.
that, yeah, so I signed the contract. The Raiders had a week to match. And man, I went to LA. I was packing up all my stuff, told my girlfriend,
Wow.
we had made plans. It was,
Oh
and
my gosh.
on the sixth day, my agent called me, and I was, we were talking almost every day, so it wasn't no big deal.
Right.
But I could hear in his voice, he was like, "I got some news. The Raiders." And
They
man,
passed.
I was so upset, man.
Oh
I
my
was so upset.
God.
But what that did was, um, because I didn't like a whole bunch of things that Al had done, and I think he had fired Arshell that year,
Okay.
or maybe it was a year after, year later. But I went into his office, man. The only time I had a conversation with him, I had a legal pad, and I had 21 things lined up on that legal pad, and we had a long conversation, and it was all about the football team. It was nothing personal about us
Uh-huh.
because I didn't understand a lot of things that he was doing and how he was putting that in the I want to win category when you're doing all these things that are the opposite of winning.
Right. Right.
And after that, man, I think he sort of looked at me as this ain't no ordinary brother, right? you know. And so we never had any more conversations, man, and never broke bread with them, never
Wow.
nothing, nothing. So, but yeah, this is what I got from that, though, Chris. I gotta tell you this story because it was funny, and then
Sure.
I'll finish up. So my guy Jeff, uh, dang it, how in the world can I forget Jeff's last name? Um, Quarterback from Illinois, um,
George, Jeff George.
Jeff George. So Jeff was walking out to practice one day, right, and Al was right behind him, and Al called him, and all of a sudden you hear Jeff George just start cursing Al out. I mean, just cursing hard, right? And Jeff was so animated, man. We were warming up, bro, going through our warm up, and he was just walking around the whole time, talking to himself, right?
Wow.
And and we get to practice. We're at 707, Chris, so you know what this is, right? We're at 707, so they bring me in at 707 to simulate blocking the safety,
Okay.
right? So the safety wouldn't just be free, right?
Right.
So there's nobody guarding me out here, right? So I'm out there, and Jeff audibles to a pass. So, so he throws me a little hitch or whatever. So I'm like stunned, right? Because this is 707.
Right, right.
So they line me up again, and he does the same thing, right? So they say, Tim, get out of here, right? So, bro, we get in 707. We get in a 907. I was talking about with
Right.
now we're in 707.
Okay.
We're in Skelly, and every time I lined up, he threw me a ball. Every time I lined up, and one of these passes, bro, he rolled out to his left, and I was running a clear route on the right side. He throws the ball 55 yards on a dime, right? And a good thing I was running because otherwise it would look real bad. Hey, we ended up. I caught 43 balls in practice that day, right? And usually I may catch 12.
Sure, right,
I caught
right.
43 balls in practice that day. So he didn't tell us for a while, but he told us coming out of that locker room, Al asked him not to throw me the ball in practice that day.
Whoa.
And he was so frustrated by it that he decided that he was going to show Al up. And he did that by throwing me the ball every time I got in the huddle with him. He threw me a pass. Whether it was run or pass, he threw me the ball. And so, you have those kind of stories, man. And I got a couple more that I won't go into. Then you sort of get a picture that, dang, this is a little different. This is not like we don't have a relationship. This is like, it's trying to stump my career.
Exactly.
But, and I'm glad I got some God in my life, bro, because if I didn't, I think things would have been different. And now skip ahead. When I got inducted into the California Hall of Fame, right before, I think it was a year before I got inducted to the NFL Hall of Fame.
Okay.
I had the opportunity, maybe, I don't know, it was a year afterwards. My wife, it must have been afterwards because my wife said to me at the big Hall of Fame that I didn't mention Al Davis. And I said to her, well, do you want me to lie? I mean, do you want me to tell people that we had a great relationship and da-da-da, this and that, da-da-da, this and that? And she said something. She said, no matter what happened with you guys, he did give you that opportunity, right, to play for the Raiders. My response is, well, if it wasn't the Raiders, it would have been somebody else.
It would have been Dallas at the Snipes pick.
Right. But this is where the God part comes in, because when thinking about what I was going to say, and I heard that Mark Davis, Al's son, was going to be there, what came to my mind and to my heart was that, just think, Tim, what if you and Al were buddy-buddy? Mm-hmm. Would you have had the same drive that you had?
Wow.
Would you have done things the same way in practice if you knew that this guy was looking at you differently? Instead, you knew he was looking at you differently, but it was in a bad way. But if you knew that you had him in your back pocket, would you have worked this hard? Would you have done the things in the offseason that you did? Why? When I thought about everything I did, man, was to try and get this guy to pat me on the back.
Wow.
Chris, you know what I mean? For one time, I wanted to walk in there and him hug me and say, Tim, that was a great game you played.
Right.
That was a great game. I'll tell this story. We playing Green Bay in '93. So first year I go over 1,000 yards. Jeff Hostetler gets hurt in the game. Reggie White slams him on the ground and knocks the brother out.
Uh-huh.
And Vince Evans comes in, and it's 35 degrees or whatever. I'm out there, no gloves. I'm balling. I'm ready. And so I go over 1,000 yards for the first time in my career. And I come in the locker room. I'm coming out the shower. Al got Vince Evans up in the locker, asking them, why did you keep throwing 81 the ball? And Vince said, hey, man, you got that big old deep boy.
Right.
Your hands off me, man. He the only one balling today, man.
Oh, my God.
And Al turns around, and I'm right there. I hear everything that's been said. And, so you think about all those things, but, would you have been the same person?
Right.
And I came to the conclusion, man, that I would not have been the same.
Wow. That's deep.
So when I got up to speak. There was about 400 people in the room, and I said to y'all 399 folks, unfortunately, y'all don't matter to me tonight. There's only one guy I'm talking to, and that's Mark Davis. And I went on for about 15, 20 minutes explaining to him, not in great detail, but in detail enough so he could understand that I didn't have fun memories of your father. But I stand here today knowing that if not for your father, I wouldn't be here. And for that, I'm forever grateful, and and whatever I can do to help the organization and all this, So yeah, man, I don't look at the relationship with Al as a bad thing at all. Matter of fact, I look at it now and look and say that it was the best thing for me at the time. It was the best thing for me at the time, and because I don't know, I come here to come on to Dallas, and now you see Michael and Jerry Jones lipping and lapping together and doing all these incredible things. And I'm talking to Michael. He's like, "Yeah, Jerry and I went out to dinner the other night. This and that." So your head gets filled up with what you need and what you want. But I think I got exactly what I needed. And I can't look back on my career and say, I could have done better. I guess you always can, but no, Tim, So from that standpoint, man, I am honored. Look, I played more games for Al Davis than anybody in the history of the Raiders. So the last thing,
longer than Howie Long?
Yes. Well, Howie was only there like 10 or 11 years, man. So I got 16 years. So from that standpoint, I think me and Jim Otto are neck and neck. But I think I played more games than anybody in the history of the Raiders. So, from that standpoint, man, I am grateful. I was very sad that I didn't get a chance to speak with him before he passed. I didn't realize he was so sick. I heard that he was sick, but you never know. Somebody's going to go so quickly. But he was a right owner for me. And, I got this little bronze bust up here to prove that. And so for that, I'm grateful.
Speaking about that little bronze bust, again, I had a chance to walk you through the Heisman. What was it like when, and I know it's kind of a ballot issue, you kind of go up again and again and again, but the idea of it finally happening for you, and not that it wasn't going to, your stats are amazing, but what was that feeling like? And you're talking about a kid who sophomore there at Notre Dame was like, hey, I just want to win some games. Like, hey, can we get a coach in there, win some games? So you've had an amazing journey. What was it like having a chance to be now considered one of the best to ever play the game, period?
Well, I was, I never was one to talk about myself or what I was doing on the field, but I think the one thing that I was very proud of is, and me and Gerry joked about this when he came over to the Raiders because, he had Joe and Steve for majority of his career. Then Jeff Garcia, who was not a bad quarterback at all. And by the time he got up to the Raiders, I think Rich Ganna was quarterback number 18 for me at 19. So what I was very proud of was, no matter who the quarterback was, I was able to go out and consistently do what I had to do or what I could do to help the football team. And, so I think from that standpoint, man, I got 10, 11 years in the league. And I think once I broke Fred Biletnikoff's record, which I believe was 97, then, you think, oh, wow. I didn't realize I was that close until I think somebody told me 4 or 5 weeks before. So that was a remarkable moment for me. And to be quite honest with you, I could have been done then. But then, Gruden comes in '98.
Right.
And I tried to leave after the '97 season too. And Gruden was like, "Man, give me 1 year, and, uh, and let's see if we can work together." And I said, well, "It's not about you, It's all about who we both work for." And
Sure.
so after a year with Gruden and loving that offense, um, I realized that I had an opportunity. Now, if not for John Gruden, man, there's no way I'm in the Hall of Fame. When he got to the Raiders,
Wow.
I think I played 10 years. I think I had 40 some 42, 43 touchdowns. And
Okay.
the magical number is 100, right? You can get to 100 as a receiver. I mean, back in the day, anyway, that number may be going up the way these guys are
Okay.
scoring. But um, but I had in 4 years with him, I had just as many touchdowns as I had the previous 10 years.
Wow.
So, well, there was a rule in place before that don't throw the ball to Tim Brown inside the 20. So either they would take me out the game, or I would literally be a decoy. So,
Jeez.
so I mean, when Gruden got there, the first thing he asked me, "Well, why don't you score touchdowns inside the 20?" I said, "Because the rule is don't throw Tim the ball." And Al has said, he said openly many times that, you know, um, you don't want receivers to become superstars, and they become superstars by scoring touchdowns. So if I scored a touchdown outside 20 yards, then that was on me. But to him, the easy touchdowns came inside the red zone.
Jeez.
So, but so yeah. But if not for Gruden, man, my and I told him, I said, "Man, you got a problem because you got to deal with the guy upstairs. And I don't mean God. Uh, you got to deal with him, and he's not going to allow you." And he said, "Well, look, we'll both be out of here in 2 years if he doesn't allow me to throw you the ball."
Wow.
And sure enough, man, he did it. And we were playing good football, so Al couldn't say anything about it.
Mm.
And but yeah, I had in 4 years, I had just as many touchdowns I had in 10. Gruden leads, but we have the same offense. So yeah, I mean, if not for that offense, man, I certainly wouldn't have had the opportunity. But so I mean, longevity has its place, right? You look up, you're getting close to 1,000 receptions, and over 13,000 yards or whatever it is, whatever the number is, and you look in the record books and you go, well, there are not too many guys in the record books right now that have these numbers. So, I mean, when I retired, I was 2 in catches, um, 2 in touchdowns,
Wow.
or 2 in yards. I was 2 in yards and 3 in catches. I think I was two
Wow.
two three or 2-3-3. So with that, you feel as if you got a pretty good shot of getting in. Now, my mistake was retiring with Jerry Rice, with Andre Reed, and with Chris Thomas. You know what I mean? So, and being that I was the last one to come out, well, Jerry came out with me, and
Uh-huh.
everybody knew he was going to be first ballot. Then, I basically had to wait my time.
I got you.
But,
Right.
I was, look, nobody could change my numbers. So if they didn't want a guy in the Hall of
Right.
Fame that
Right.
had my numbers,
Right.
then so be it. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly, exactly. Well, it's really interesting because when you talk about the type of success you had and being in that team environment, that the leadership aspect, just want to talk a little bit about the being able to succeed in the type of uh, culture that you were part of. I mean, it sounds like from upstairs, it may have been kind of a contentious relationship, but what was it like in the locker room? I mean, when people talk about a winning culture, were you around that a lot? Did it, I mean, did you see it at Notre Dame, or was it starting to happen when you were at Notre Dame?
Certainly, my last few years at Notre Dame was totally different than the first 2 years. When Lou came in there, one of the first things that he said to the football team was, we were going to win a national championship in 3 years. I mean, that was one of the first statement he made. And
Wow.
he made that statement simply because he was saying to the upperclassmen, if you guys don't buy in, this won't happen. I
Mm.
know you guys won't be here, but we need you guys to buy in. And if you buy in, then this would happen. And there were some guys who were mumbling, "Man, you talking about 3 years? I want to win that championship now." You know what I mean? I mean, it was a topic of conversation because guys were
Mm.
like, "Man, if we can win it, let's win it in 2. Why we got to
Right.
win it in 3?"
Right. Right.
But I think that there was, I can't remember what game it was, but there was a moment where you realize, man, we got a chance to be a good football team.
Mm.
Even in the year we went 6-5, we realized all the mistakes that were being made by the players, not by the coaches,
Right.
which had been
Right.
totally different than the years
Probably
previous.
the opposite. Right. Exactly.
Right. So now, if we do what's right, if we get better at position A or position B, then maybe we can win some more football games, and that's what happened even from my junior year to my senior year. But yeah, I think the culture to win, man, you can definitely tell when you have it, and you can tell when you don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
And my agent has done an incredible job of keeping me in the market by telling people Tim is the guy that you really want to talk to, because usually when you have a championship team, that's not made up of one guy. That's made up of a lot of great players for the
Sure.
most part. You're not just going to have one guy. You're going to have guys on offense, guys on defense who are playing at a high level to make that happen. But if you have a guy who plays at a high level and is on a team that is not winning, he can tell you exactly why you're not winning.
Right.
And
Exactly.
if he gets in your organization or if he hears your story, he can tell you lickety split. Oh, well, so and so not buying in. That's
Mm-hmm.
why you ain't doing this deal. That's why, you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And I think from that standpoint, man, is sort of how I always approach, Raider world was different, bro. I mean, the Raider locker room was a different locker room, bro. I mean, I got 4 guys. I got 3 guys who have killed themselves. I have 2 guys who have been killed, and I got 1 guy who is in jail now for double murder. Who are all my teammates, and and they all, the guys who died wasn't like they were sleeping, right? They were actively involved in stuff, so it's a different place, bro. I mean, when you talk about a culture, no matter where guys came from, they quickly adapted to that Raider culture, which is freewheeling, hide the women and children, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And that's all cool when you're on a football field,
Right.
but when you get off the field, you have to. And a lot of guys couldn't turn it off. And we're in LA. You got the women, you got the lifestyle,
Right.
it's just all there for the taking. And man, we had guys that put their uniform on, everything except their shoulder pads, and they would go down to the strip club at lunchtime just to be back at practice.
Jeez.
So I mean, it was just a very different place, man. And the problem is there were so many holes. It was hard to patch this hole, patch that
Right.
hole, you
Right.
know. And
Exactly.
you just tried to patch as many holes as you could be presentable on game day.
Mm.
And that was what we dealt with, And
Mm.
1990 we had a great run. We went 12-4, and Bo Jackson gets hurt in a divisional playoff game, and that pretty much killed the deal.
Mm.
And had a couple playoff runs, in the mid in 90, 93, I think, 91, whatever. May have played a wild card game, maybe a division game in 93. Then we didn't see the playoffs again until 2000, when we make it to the AFC Championship game again, and Rich Gannon, gets his shoulder blown out in the first quarter of the game. And then next year, we had the Tuck game, the Tuck
Right.
rule
Right.
game.
Right. Right.
And then finally, in 2002, we make it to the Super Bowl, where we have the biggest fiasco you could possibly have You know, when, our coach decides to change the game plan 2 days before the game, and, Barry Robbins, decides he's going to go out and get drunk, ends up in Tijuana, Mexico. And we knew going into the game, we didn't have a chance, man. We didn't have a chance to win that game unless Tampa laid down, So,
Right. Right.
I mean, we had guys on the sideline trying to fight the head coach, bro. And so, yeah, there's a culture. The Raiders were all, and, you got to be careful by saying this because you definitely are not trying to, um, demean other players, other teams. But the Raiders, to me, was always one of the more talented football teams in the league.
Sure.
But
Sure.
we were most of the time probably the most undisciplined football team in the league. And and talent can only win for so long.
Right. Right.
At some point, you got to have some discipline about yourself
Right.
to be able to get things done. And that was usually the issue with us. We always bit ourselves in the foot some kind of way, and no matter what the situation was, it was just always tough sometimes,
Wow. 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 All right. So as we wind down, the last kind of bigger question I have is when you think about kind of what leadership means to you and the coaches you've been around, family members, I mean, what created the leader that you are today?
Marcus Allen, probably, as far as football players go, was the perfect example of what a leader should be.
Okay.
I talked about my relationship with Al. His relationship was worse with Al. Was worse. And when Bo would come, after baseball season, Marcus pretty much got relegated to fullback. So he was lead blocker for Bo. Never complained. Never complained. In the AFC Championship game that I mentioned a second ago, when Bo went down, everybody was, initially like, okay, well, we got Marcus out. So, Marcus wasn't allowed to start in that game. We started Vance Mueller. Look that name up.
What?
We started Vance Mueller, and we go up to Buffalo and get our butts whooped up in Buffalo. Not because we weren't a better football team, but because we weren't disciplined in the locker room, and the coaching staff, and the organization. But Marcus never complained, brother. Never ever complained. Never ever complained. There was a time there where he got relegated to he could only play on third down and 4th and 1 because he was the best 4th down back in the league. And that's what happens. When hey, we won some games, we lost some games. And I can remember in '92, man, his last game with the Raiders. And this is how crazy things were, bro. This is how crazy things were. We're out the playoffs. The game don't mean a thing.
Right.
And we're playing the Washington football team now, right?
Okay.
And we're playing them there. And Bo got hurt or something. Bo didn't play something. I don't remember. And so Marcus was coming in third down. And we were close, right? And we went into halftime, man, and a group of us literally had to go beg our shell to let Marcus play. Let him play. Please, let him play. The last game of the year, we like to win this game. Let him play, right? And by the mere fact of him doing that, the energy on that football team that we really feel could have been there all year. And I feel that whole football team, offensively and defensively, went up to a level that we really hadn't played it all year. We come back, win the football game, right?
Wow.
So that's the only time I saw Marcus Allen break. After that game, man, Al came in the locker room and he just went slap off. I mean, he just went off. Just, got everything out of him. He went to hell. He had held in for, I had been there with him 5 years. So, I think from that standpoint, for him to have all that in him, but to still be the leader in the locker room, still be the first one on the football field, the last one off the field, to still be the one encouraging guys in practice, on game day, always encouraging.
Wow.
I just felt like, man, even though he's a USC guy, I may be able to learn something from this guy. And I literally tried to manage my leadership style the same way he did, where no matter what was going on with me,
right,
it was always about the team. Okay. And when I spoke, I never ever did I ever speak publicly about what was going on with Tim Brown. I always spoke about what was happening with the team and what needed to change to make us better or whatever, you know what I mean? And but yeah, man, I think that cat really, when it came to football, showed me how to be a leader in the locker room. And I just carried that style with me for as long as I possibly could.
That's amazing. All right, so we'll make just a small switch here, then we're going to be finished right there. Thank you very much for your time. The 2020 college football season and professional football season, it was very challenging. We had a chance last year in 2020 to see Notre Dame have a bunch of success, and then all of a sudden have a chance to kind of make the college football playoff. Unfortunately, they lost their last couple of games. What is it you think that Notre Dame needs in order to kind of compete against the Clemson, compete against an Alabama? And I say that even though Notre Dame, and my personal feeling, the second time they played Clemson, I was wondering where that team was, where the first time they played Clemson, right?
Yeah.
Because it was night and day. And I don't care if you have 5 Trevor Lawrences, you can't tell me that the game in South Bend when Clemson beat them, or when Notre Dame beat Clemson, I don't care who they had, they were just on fire.
Energy.
But when you look at kind of what happened against Clemson the second time and then Alabama, what do you think what does Notre Dame need in order to kind of be at that level with them? What do you think?
Hey, I had a chance to ask Coach Kelly that at the little Super Bowl deal that they did last week. And I asked him, bro, what is it going to take to get there? Now, I think I know what the answer is, but I just wanted to hear him say it.
Sure.
And you got to get some Chris Zorich in there, bro. You know what I mean? You got to get somebody who at that position is going to be done. You got to get a Rocket Ismail in there. I'll leave myself out of this equation, but
you're very kind. You're very kind, right?
You got to get a Rocket Ismail in there that when he got the ball, everybody was standing up.
Right.
When he lined up for a punt return, kickoff return, everybody was on their feet already because they were expecting something great. Right. I mean, you got to get players that dominant. I'm not saying you're going to have a dominant guy at every position, but you got to have guys, man. You got to have a Tony Rice, bro.
Right.
You got to have a guy who can make plays, any kind of way he needs to make plays. And, so I think from that standpoint, when you look at what happened in the first Clemson game, I can't ever pronounce number 6 name, the outside linebacker.
Oh, right. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
But, look at the dominant plays he made in that game.
Right.
Dominant. I'm not talking about good plays.
Right.
I'm saying dominant plays he made in that game. I mean, we opened up the game with a 68-yard touchdown run. And I kept waiting for somebody to come flying out the screen and knock Holtz out of bounds. like, I know we're not going to outrun the secondary for 65 yards. That can't be done versus Clemson.
Right.
So we made those big plays, man, that we obviously didn't come close to making in the last 2 games of the year.
Right.
But I think that's what it's going to take, man. And until they can get those players, they'll be 9-2, 10-1 every year, and may go 11-0 every once in a while. But you're not going to win those games because to beat an Alabama or to beat a Clemson, you gotta be ready to Oklahoma, whoever. I mean, you got to be ready to make some plays. We got good, solid football players, but most of them are not in a position or physically are not ready to make extraordinary plays that have to be made to win games like that.
Right. And overall, I mean, the whole challenging part, I mean, even I'm sure you coming in, I mean, I had no idea where Notre Dame was, and I lived 90 miles away, but the idea that we have to, and it was interesting when I had Rocket on the podcast, and then also Ryan Harris, who was, it was really interesting kind of hearing his take on Notre Dame because he's Muslim. And he went to several different, he went on several different visits. And of course, what did Notre Dame do? Notre Dame took him to a mosque, right? I mean, so he was like, hey, I'm in, right? So you have that ability to kind of get those type of players, but I mean, we have to find a way to get more of them, right? Because like what you're saying, you talk about some key positions. Now, you're right. You're not going to get them all. You're not going to have great dominance at every position. But when you're able to kind of get those 1 or 2 players, and I happened to be on the call on the Super Bowl event as well, and Coach Kelly talked about offensive defensive line. He feels good there. It's those skill positions, which I think is correct. And when you're able to get one of those, or 2 of or 3 of those, then I think we're going to have success. The challenge is with an Alabama, you have one guy who graduates, there's 4 or 5 stars behind him, right? That's going to be the challenge as a whole. But Tim, man, I want to say thank you so much. Man, this was I really appreciate this. It was an honor for me having the chance to kind of share some time with you, because I think that you have done what maybe was done in the 30s or 20s or whatever back when Notre Dame started, but I look at you and your class as kind of putting us on that track of having that success that Notre Dame had. Now, it only lasted for a couple of years after that. We tried, but I think after kind of 94, 95, I think it kind of died down, and really kind of waiting for that resurgence. But I do want to say thank you very much for being that leader, being that person that we were able to look up to, and to understand what it meant to be a true Notre Dame man. So thank you very much. I do appreciate that. This was an honor, man.
I appreciate you, Chris, man. It was great catching up with you. And as you can see, I can do this all day, bro. I love it, man. I can do this all day. So but I appreciate you, man. Keep up the good work, brother.
Thank you very much. I would also like to thank everybody watching on Facebook and YouTube, and most of all, the wonderful mom and daughter team of my wife and daughter, Kylie and Candy, who helped me produce the show. This podcast, along with our others, are on my YouTube page at Chris Zorich 50. Go there and please click subscribe. Tim, thank you so much. This was a huge honor, man. I do appreciate it.
All good, brother. Love you, man.
All right, man. Love you too, bro. Be good.
Be good.
Go Irish.